All right, today we're pulling back the curtain and going beyond the classic image of the hacker in a hoodie. We're going to unmask the real faces behind cyber threats and dive into the complex and honestly fascinating world of digital adversaries. So let's get right into it. So let me ask you something. When you hear the word hacker, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's probably some lone wolf in a dark room just furiously typing away. But is that really the whole picture? Who's actually behind the big cyber attacks we're always hearing about? Well, the truth is that image of the lone hacker, it's mostly a myth. The reality is so much bigger and more organized than that. We're not talking about one person. We're talking about a whole ecosystem of different groups and skilled people, and they all have their own unique goals and playbooks. To really wrap our heads around this, we need to use the term the pros use, threat actor. It sounds a little formal, but it's a super important idea. Basically, a threat actor is any person or any group that has both the skills and the motivation to cause harm in the digital world. So let's bring these actors out of the shadows. We're going to do a little investigation. Take a look at a lineup of the usual suspects. You know, the main types of adversaries you're most likely to come up against. First up in our lineup, and by far the most common, is the cybercriminal. And you really need to stop thinking of them as just troublemakers. Think of them as professionals running a very illegal business. And I am not kidding when I say business. Their number one motive, almost always, is money. Cold, hard cash. They work in these incredibly organized groups. I mean, some are so sophisticated, they have customer support help desks for their ransomware victims. It's wild. They'll target anyone and everyone, using their favorite tools like ransomware, phishing, and just plain old data theft to make a profit. Okay, next up is a totally different breed of cat, the hacktivist. And the name pretty much gives it away, right? It's a mashup of hacker and activist. Now, unlike our cybercriminal, the hacktivist isn't after your credit card numbers. They're driven by a cause, by an ideology. Their main goal is to get public attention and make a political point. So their tactics are all about disruption, like plastering a protest message all over a company's website, or launching what's called a DDoS attack, which is basically like a digital protest that floods a website with so much traffic that it just completely shuts down. And now we move to the top of the food chain, the nation-state actor. You can think of these as the spies with keyboards, the secret agents of the digital age, and they've got the full power and funding of a government behind them. Their game is all about strategy. We're talking espionage, sabotage, anything to get a geopolitical upper hand. These are elite, well-funded teams of absolute experts. They're not downloading hacking tools off the internet, they're building their own custom weapons from scratch. And their targets are laser-focused. Critical infrastructure, government secrets, you name it. This is literally cyber warfare on a global scale. And this right here shows you the incredible spectrum we're dealing with. On one end of the scale, you have what's called a script kiddie, basically low skill, using tools they found online, just looking for bragging rights. And on the complete opposite end, you have the nation-state actor. The difference in skill, tools, motivation, and resources is just, it's like comparing a paper airplane to a stealth bomber. The gap is massive. Okay, so we've met the who, now let's dig into the why. Because honestly, in cybersecurity, understanding the motive behind an attack is everything. It's the key that can unlock an attacker's entire strategy. This quote just nails it. You can't possibly build a good defense if you don't know what you're defending against. You have to ask, are they after money? Are they after secrets? Or are they just trying to make a scene? That answer changes your entire game plan. Whoa, okay, check this out. When you actually break down the numbers, it's pretty eye-opening. A whopping 60% of attacks are all about financial gain. That's our cybercriminals working overtime. But, and this is so important, look at that other 40%. That's a huge chunk driven by politics, spying, and even just plain old ego. The big takeaway here is that while money talks the loudest, it is definitely not the only language these attackers speak. So you might be wondering, okay, this is all interesting, but why does this really matter to me? Well, it's simple. Knowing your adversary, who they are, and what they want is your absolute first and most important line of defense. It is the bedrock of any solid security strategy. See, this knowledge lets you stop just reacting and start being proactive. First, you can actually predict potential attacks. A hospital, for instance, knows it needs to be ready for ransomware gangs.
Second, it helps you build the right defenses. I mean, the wall you build to stop a hacktivist is totally different from the one you'd build to stop a spy. And finally, it tells you where to put your time and money. Nobody has unlimited resources, right? So you focus on the threats most likely to come knocking on your door.
So there you have it. We've unmasked the actors behind the keyboard. And it's not some one-dimensional villain. It's a whole cast of characters, organized criminals, passionate activists, and elite government operatives. And that all leads to the most important question of all. Now that you know who they are, how will you